One of the most common complaints about hip-hop nowadays is that the beef is out of control. All this beef is bad for hip-hop. But I disagree with that. I like beef. I grew up in the 80s watching all my favorite rappers beef with each other, and half the time I didn't really know what they were beefing about. But that didn't matter because their beef always made great theater and it always inspired great music. And I think that's the real problem for rappers nowadays. It's just gotten so much harder to keep your beef fresh and make good theater out of it. Back in the days, one rapper would drop a diss record, then there'd be a couple of months of suspense waiting to see if the other guy would respond. But now it's so easy to put stuff on the internet that the shots go back and forth every 2 hours, and instead of showing off your skills with a good diss record, most of today's beef just involves snapping on each other in YouTube videos without even making a song. All of which makes it much harder to keep the story fresh and much easier to have the drama drag on way too long until everyone starts looking desperate and pathetic. And when your actors are feeling desperate and pathetic, they're much more likely to escalate the beef into real violence. And that sucks because it totally ruins the show and ruins people's lives. So basically you need Scorsese level skills to pull off a good beef nowadays. And a perfect case study is the beef between Joe Budden and Ransom. This one actually started out as a good beef. You had one great rapper in Joe Budden up against a pretty good rapper in Ransom. I mean, Ransom was kind of like the Washington Generals. You knew he couldn't win, but he was just good enough to keep the game going. And that set them up to go back and forth with a series of quality diss tracks that culminated with this blistering verse from Joe Budden breaking down how Ransom was trapped in a hood mentality. It was one of my favorite verses of the year, and if they would have ended the beef right there, it would have been perfect. But no, they had to keep coming back and fall into Simpsons beef syndrome, making more and more episodes way after the show should have been canceled. This Christmas weekend, a whole year after the original beef, they decided to come back and start a new season. Except this one was a spin-off version with no rapping in it, just a lot of YouTube ranting. Ransom put up a video dropping a bunch of gossip about Joe's girlfriend. Joe Budden came back with a story about going to Ransom's house and he pulled the gun out but he didn't shoot, and then whatever, who cares. And then we finally jumped the shark once and for all when Ransom taped himself going to Joe Budden's friend's brother's house and having his friend smack Joe Budden's friend's brother in the face for no reason. And then I smacked myself for watching it. But wait, the story's not over. Just when I thought all hope was lost and I was in the middle of making this video, Joe Budden came back with a surprise twist.
First and foremost, I want to take the time out and apologize to any Joe Budden fan out there.
Instead of charging forward with guns blazing like they always do in this movie, Joe Budden did a rewrite on the script, took a step back, and saw how stupid it would be to keep playing that role.
What happens next? I go retaliate, I respond. You then respond to the response for pride, like for ego, for machismo.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. And then I was gonna say that you should just let Ransom have the last word and let him think that he won.
So, Ran, you win. You win for being stupider than me and for not having anything going on with you in your life that's important enough for you to really think about what you're doing. So there. Now, go respond to that. Respond to logic, maturity, and common sense.
Logic, maturity, and common sense. How's that for a plot twist? Just when I thought this was another remake of Scarface, Joe Budden turned it into a remake of Wargames. And that should be a lesson to all you aspiring beef rappers out there. If you want to keep your beef fresh in 2009, you can't stick to the same script. You need to throw in some intelligent plot twists.